Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ripple Effect podcast by Ripple Baseball. This is episode 3, and today what we kind of want to discuss is commonalities amongst high-level achievers that we've seen. So right away, I just want to start talking about buy-in, right? So we see that in the facility, the guys who tend to buy in to what we're saying. You know, there's a level of trust that has to be created between both of us, right? Like they have to understand that we're doing this with their best interest in mind. That helps with buy-in. But really anything in life, I would say, the guy who's more bought in is going to be more successful versus the guy who's there but is always questioning things or whether they're doing the right thing or not. So a couple stories I want to give about that is my personal one being in AAA. Right? I'm thinking about what's going on in the big leagues. I'm thinking about, okay, what do I have to do to have that job versus what can I do right now to be the best at what I do in my position? Does that make sense?
You were GM Ryan Clark.
Yeah. What do you mean GM?
Like you're playing GM.
Oh yeah.
Doing matching roster moves, this and that.
Yeah, and I think like when you buy in and you give that trust to somebody else, you don't have to worry about those things, right? Like it almost frees you up a little bit.
100%.
Right? And I don't know, does that apply?
Yeah, to jump in on that, I was just writing about this in my newsletter, little plug, but comparison being the thief of joy. And when you start positioning yourself against other people, your peers or whoever, it's going to suck the life out of you. Eventually, like a slow IV drip, it's just going to drip away, and comparison is going to be the thief of your joy on the opposite end when you're just present and being where you are and just pouring into each moment. Not only will you probably find more joy, but you'll play the game a little bit more free. You'll enjoy the successes, probably the failures don't weigh on you as much. You're just being there and you're competing and having fun and just living in the moment a little bit more.
Right, and I think like for athletes, we like to control everything, right? Like if we want to get to where we're going, and the fact that, especially in baseball, that you don't have any control over that, right? I think that just makes it even more the case to where, okay, because we're in tryout season right now, right? There's guys who want to make varsity who end up on JV. There's guys on JV who will make varsity. Some of them, they might be your friend, right? Then you start comparing yourself. But regardless of where you end up, you need to be the best version of yourself at that level, right? And I saw something the other day. This is related back to like your work life. You want a promotion, not you personally, but just general. If you want a promotion and you're worried about, okay, what do I need to do to get that promotion? And you're just looking at, okay, what's the job description of that job? You're not focusing on what makes you actually special. And if you can be the best that you are, the best that you can be at the job you already have, you're more likely to get that promotion because you're doing such a great job and you're controlling what you can actually control, you know? But yeah, so just to wrap up that, buy-in to me is such a huge component of high-level achievers. And it doesn't have to be buying into something else. It doesn't have to be buying into Ripple. It could be just buying into yourself.
For sure.
And understanding that what you're already doing is good enough, and that's what you want, or that's what you need to do to have success, right?
I think it's important to understand that I'm not saying it's only natural for you to compare. Like you're going to do it no matter how bad you don't want to do it. You're going to compare. In baseball, you're going to see this guy that's raking. He has all these base hits, and then, you know, you smoke a ball and the shortstop catches it. But that other guy, he's getting a bunch of hits, broken bat single, jam single, and it falls in. So it's only natural to compare yourself to what else is going on. The next level of it is being able to recognize and bring yourself back to the present. So I don't want to act like I compared myself a million times. But as I got older and got better at it, it's recognizing that's what I'm doing. Hey, let's come back. Let's not worry about that. Let's just be who I am and be where I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so common in baseball too, especially at like professional level, but even, you know, we just talked about JV varsity level. the hardest part is that it's your buddies, right? And I was actually talking to my wife the other day about this, about how interesting of a concept it is, where it's like, and towards the end of my career, later on, I started rooting for everybody, and I meant it. You know what I mean? I feel like when you're kind of going through the system to start, you're rooting for your friends, like obviously, but you're also like in the back of your head, like, shoot, well, if he does really well, he's going to get that spot over me. And I think changing that mindset made baseball more fun. Enjoying other people's successes, and showing up to the ballpark every day, being the same person, happy. Anything like
it's another branch of
Yeah.
buying in. You're just
yeah,
buying into the moment and not letting the outside stuff affect who you are on a day-to-day basis, for sure too.
yeah, right. Yeah. So wrapping up buying right there. Do you have anything that you've seen? Whether it's here at the facility, when you were playing, you got to play at a very high level. So you actually got to see the difference between a AAA guy, which like when you're in AAA, you work with other big leaguers too, but it's kind of like a different part of their career. They're up and down, or they were big leaguers trying to get back. You got to experience living life with big leaguers for a little bit. What can you tell me about the difference of maybe somebody like you who was just getting up there, and somebody who's been there for 10 years? You got to be with guys like was Goldschmidt there? Like,
yeah, Goldie was there. I knew him that well.
Yeah,
Paul Goldschmidt was there.
Who's the pitcher that I?
Arenado was there.
Yeah,
Sonny Gray had some great conversations and interactions with
big
him.
pitcher.
Lance Lynn.
Yeah, Lance Lynn.
He did it for a while.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is with and it's too, but in AAA and the big leagues, the talent level is not that different. Like, the gap is not that big. The gap widens based off some of these traits we're talking about of consistency and how people create daily routines that have just the most incredible compounding results. So the highest performers I was ever around, I think what separated them, and I played with, 10-year big leaguers, what separated them is that they just lived in the world of high-level operation. They never, of course they relaxed sometimes, but they never really took a full step back. They're always trying to find a way to improve their mobility, trying to find a better hitting routine, trying to find this and that until they find what they have, and they hold on to it and they never let go.
Would you say that's part of that is that they're high-level competitors as well? Just going back into my history, I remember in high school taking tests, I wanted to be the best at every test I took. You know what I mean? Getting a bad grade was that's a reflection of me and a reflection of the work that I put in. Would you say that's a similar idea, or is it more along, I know in the baseball world, where can I get the next edge over the next guy? You know what I mean?
No, it is the same. Two things I think when you ask that, directly in the locker room, you think about the guy that, it's not all the time, but pretty often, the same guy that is going out there and performing really well is the same guy that takes care of every single detail in the weight room, that takes care of every single detail in the training room. He competes for a hitter. He competes in the cage, pregame prep. Everything is not competition, but everything is so focused until the end of the day, and it's time to relax at the house. That's really it. But even then, they're focused on, okay, am I eating the right things? Am I making sure I get on my hydration? Am I taking my supplements? So in a direct baseball standpoint, you're spot on. And then when I think about other fields, a lot of times the same people that are high performers they want to compete at everything. They don't just take a step back to let someone else beat them just so the other person can feel good. They're always in almost domination, but they just want to beat everyone.
Yeah.
And sometimes those people are tough to be around, but a lot of times they're still good people.
Yeah,
you just live in that world.
I think that kind of touched on something that we talked about in the first episode, which is intentionality, right? It can come across as competitive, but they're just uber intentional in every single thing they did.
For sure.
That they want to be the best at it. And then I think it's also important to note that process can look different for everybody, right? The same guy who, is foam rolling for 15 minutes, right? he's really on top of everything, like overly. There's the same guy over here who's like, okay, like I don't need to take batting practice before a game, right? I already feel good, or I don't want to hit in the cage, or I don't want to hit on the field. And I think this is where we can tie both of them together, because they're bought in on their processes of, okay, I know if I take these rounds in the cage, I don't actually have to go outside, and it doesn't really do much for me, right?
That's a good point.
So I think that's also an important note for a lot of our guys who are listening to this podcast to understand is like, again, it goes back to comparison as well, where it's like, hey, I see this guy on social media who's doing all of this. I need to do all of that. But that's not necessarily the case. You got to find what makes you, what makes you special, and where do you fall short on some of the things that you do, where do you excel highly, and create your own plan and buy into it and understand that, like, I think it makes it easier too, like, because at the end of the day, win or lose, you poured everything you have into it, right? So I think that's great.
Those were good tie-ins, all of that.
Yeah.
Buying in. Because it can, like you said, it can look a lot of different ways. You can go overboard and get into the dome zone. You can dome yourself up because you're doing this. You're trying to cover everything.
Like routine versus ritual.
Yeah,
right?
And then your mind's in a million different places. On the flip side, you're like, I don't need to do anything. I just roll out of bed and I chuck baseballs or I rake.
Yeah.
And then eventually you lose those compounding traits or routines that might 10 years down the line, it might look different because you didn't do this or that.
But then you're also exuding confidence that we talked about before too. So
I think the point is, in baseball especially, it can look a million different ways. You figure out what, like you said, you figure out what works for you, you buy in, and you just go all in on it and don't look back. I think it's just baseball's so dynamic. There's so many different ways you can do things.
Right. All right, well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Bose.
That was good. That was a good one.
But yeah, so please, if you guys want to support us, like, subscribe. We're now on Spotify. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.